Good afternoon, 6-4 parents. Those of you that are open house last night, we talked about our weekly video. Those of you that were not, as a 6-4 team, we sent out a weekly video just with updates coming up for the following week, and then a little bit of information about what is happening in each of our classes. So not really any updates as far as what's happening as a team, but for math, first I want to apologize for all the chaos with the schedules. That was a math problem. Some numbers changed. Kids are now in 6+, Math 6+ or Math 6. It'll be better in the long run, but it made for a little chaos the first couple of days with some schedule changes. Right. In Math 6 this week, we started our first unit about ratios. We've spent all week talking about finding equivalent ratios. We're going to continue to talk about finding equivalent ratios and then get into deciding what is a better buy, what would be a cheaper item to buy using ratios. And then we'll start our first study guide on Friday. And then the following Monday, this is the following Monday, not till the 14th or 15th, students are going to take their first quiz for me. Right? Math 6+, we did basically the same thing this week. We talked about equivalent ratios. We're going to finish up equivalent ratios next week. On Wednesday, students will work on their study guide in class with me. On Thursday, we're going to have our first quiz in 6+, and then we're going to start talking about unit rates and how to do stuff to find more complicated ratios with those unit rates. All right. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
All right, 6-4 parents, I'm going to put two different hats on. My first hat is going to be my ELA hat. As you can see on this screen, a lot of you after open house, I think, listened to what we said and tried to access this screen, and you got denied because the access was only for the people making it. I changed that this morning, so anytime you want to come and look at this slide, you can see it. As you can tell, ELA does have homework this weekend. We apologize in advance. However, it is read chapter 2 in Percy Jackson. If you do not read chapter 2 in Percy Jackson by Monday, you are going to be a little bit behind in Monday's lesson because next week, the first couple of days are just focused on challenges faced by the main character, Percy, and how does Percy respond to these challenges. Okay, now some of your students on Thursday, that's yesterday, they read chapter 1 by using an audio link. And I'm going to show you that this audio link, it looks like this. We're going to have this in Canvas for your student to use if they wish to use this. And this will always be available if we have reading a chapter for homework. That's where your student, if they want to listen to the chapter being read to them, we just ask that they follow along in their book. This is not just listen to it and stare out the window time. Have them have their book and follow along as the reader is reading it to them. But this link will be available in their ELA Canvas course. Then next week in ELA, am I doing something wrong with this?
Yeah,
Slideshow. Okay, cool. Sorry. Next week in ELA, Monday and Tuesday, we're going to be focusing on challenges and responses. Wednesday, we're going to have a check-in on Canvas, just a comprehension check-in. Did your student read chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4? So it's just, did they read? They will have the book available to them, but if they did not read, they're not going to have enough time to read the book and do the quiz at the same time in class. That's Wednesday. And Thursday, we're doing a mid-unit assessment. That mid-unit assessment is going to have 3 main factors to it. The first one's going to be focusing on GIST, which is what we started this week. The second one's going to be citing evidence. We did that this week as well. And then it's going to be challenges and responses. If you look at the homework, that is perfectly aligned with what they're going to see. Those 3 major skills. Now, this is what we're doing in class. They have this workbook. And the students, I told my class today that this workbook is available to them when they do their mid-unit and end-of-unit assessments. So the more work they put in on this, they can use this as a reference, just like an open study guide, when they take their assessments. So the more work they put in, it's the same skills. So they just have to deliver the same skills to a different question on the mid-unit. That's my ELA hit. That's coming off. Science. This week we started thinking like a scientist. And we started with an ink lab today. I gave kids 4 strips that had black ink on them. They realized that something different happened to each of these. And they thought, like, how could I do this to them? So on Monday, we're going to dig a little deeper. We're going to do the thing that kids often don't like to do with science experiments. That's do conclusion questions with them. I know, how dare I? And then we are going to do our first set of flip notes on Tuesday. Flip notes are me narrating notes on YouTube, so you can watch them at home as well. They'll be available in Canvas. So if you ever want to know what we're learning in science, you can listen along. It's me narrating notes. and they're going to follow along and copy a set of notes that they'll use throughout this little mini unit of ours. And when we take a quiz, they can use the notes to take the quiz. So we're going to do our first flip notes together on Tuesday, and then we're going to do a lesson on variables. Then we're doing a bubble lab. We're going to see which soap makes the biggest bubble. We're going to do that on Thursday and Friday while we're doing a replicatable experiment, because scientists have to do a replicatable experiment, and they also have to collect and analyze data. That is going to be Friday. All right. Other than that, I'm going to leave it over to Mr. Hutchinson. Have a wonderful weekend. Hopefully the weather is nice.
All right, friends, let's talk a little bit about social studies. Before we do, Mr. Hagedorn just wanted me to remind you that the Canvas information that he talked about at yesterday's open house is going to come through talking points and email later today.
Yeah, sure.
Later today, shortly, you should be seeing that. So whenever you watch this, you might have it already, or you might be getting it. Now, let's talk social studies really fast. Like we said last night, we're starting our unit on social studies on thinking like a historian, which is going to be basic skills around reading a timeline, which is what we've been working on we started today and we're going to work on tomorrow, or Monday, I should say. We talked a little bit about Herodotus, the father of history, what history is, how history has bias involved in it and perspective involved in it. We started that kind of basic understanding of history, timelines. We're going to do a personal timeline on Monday, and then we're going to get a little bit into the 5 themes of geography. So we'll be talking about the different themes of geography, which help us understand what the world looks like and how the people on the world act. And that will carry us through that short unit called Thinking Like a Historian. Then we get into a longer unit on geography, all about the world. Now you'll notice over here in the homework side, I've got in social studies, copy this down in your agenda and prepare for your weekly exit ticket quiz. Every day in social studies, we have an essential question. And at the end of class, one of the students answers the essential question. Then the next morning, we ask it again, and another student reviews it. And so that question is answered twice in the course of 2 days. And at the end of the week, I ask those questions in the form of a quiz. That quiz usually is between 5 and 10 questions long, and students are able to use their agendas. I'm trying to get them to write down the question and the answer in the agenda, practicing taking notes, and then having those notes so that they can answer the questions. They did their first one of those today, 10 questions. Most kids did really, really well on it. And that grade will go into PowerSchool when we're able to put grades in PowerSchool. We can't do that until the 10th day of school. We're only on the 5th day. So we have 1 grade in social studies. You won't see it in PowerSchool for a couple of days though. All right. So that's what's happening in social studies. If you have any questions, any concerns, or any problems, please let us know. If not, like Mr. O said, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week.